welcome to Gardening with Daddy Pete. I'm Melvin York.
And I am Jay York.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in with us today. And Jay and I, we talked about what we were going to do on our podcast today. And we've had several questions on this topic. So I know a lot of you may know that in the Southeast, we're dealing with a severe drought. So we have some tips today that may help you with your gardening to conserve some water. I know that right now there's a lot of water conservation going on, especially with our home water suppliers. I think you, Jay, you're on a county water system. Is that correct?
Yep, on county municipal water, and we got the notifications a couple weeks ago that everybody needs to be reducing by at least 10% or greater, and there will be consequences for that in 2 to 3 months. The next billing cycles, you'll be cut off pretty much if you don't do that. So it's pretty serious time.
So they're giving you, they're asking you to conserve about 10% of your water usage. If not, then they give you a warning. I guess they notify you a warning.
Yep.
And then if you still can't go along with that procedure that they have in place to conserve water, they just turn your water off.
That's right.
Wow. Well, I'm one of the lucky ones, or could be unlucky. Around here, I do have my own well, but when water levels get low in the lakes and the rivers, a lot of people doesn't think that the underground water supply gets low, but it does too. So we're getting ready to deal with some, some pretty severe consequences if we don't get some rain pretty soon. I know there's already been some forest fires break out, and river and lake levels are very low right now. So we just need to pray for rain. We really need. The Southeast is in a severe drought at the moment. But when it comes to your gardening, they're going to need water too. So we're here to give you a few tips on that. And so if you got a pen and paper, or you want to go back and listen to this podcast again, you can go to daddypeets.com on our webpage. You can look on the front of the page. Does give you go to our podcast, and then you can look at our YouTube videos also. There's also a place on there where you can ask us a question. We'll answer that for you the best we can. If we don't have an answer, we will get one. And I think one of the things that we've been talking about is a way to water your garden or raised bed, and we're going to talk about what the difference of that is. And I know some of you's in pot gardens, which is great. Raised beds is great. You're going to use less water. If you're row gardening, this is one of the things we're going to be talking about, how you can help. New lawns and things is another thing we need to talk about. So you've been doing some difference, like one way that we can conserve on our watering right now, because your plants, you've got them planted, you're going to have water to them. So what have you dug up, Jay?
So one thing you can do versus just sticking out your regular 5/8, garden hose out into the yard with your $3 Dollar General water nozzle. It works good for a lot of things, but a lot of things it doesn't work too good on, especially if you have row gardening. If you have, some raised beds, this can be adaptable in any way, is using a soaker hose. So a good advantage to a soaker hose is that it's going to have, number one, you can use a smaller hose because there's not as much pressure. So you've got little indentions throughout the hose that's going to allow it to have a kind of a more spot-on approach and get a little bit better saturation versus just sitting there drowning the plant in one spot.
Like a weeping effect. The water actually weeps out of the hose instead of spraying.
Exactly.
Whatever. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And versus that too, especially for your lawns, a broadcast type sprinkler is a good way to get a good broadband coverage. But that can actually, if you want to drag that off your garden hose into your into your row garden, if you're planting in the ground or to your raised beds, you might think, well, this is a good idea. I've already got this. I can just drag this over here. And while that is a good way during normal times to, uh, you know, make the best of both worlds right now during a drought, you might actually be wasting a lot of water that you're not really realizing. So a lot of these sprinkler systems, they're meant to run on a higher gallon per minute than something like a soaker hose is. So you're going to get a good broadband coverage, but you may not need that over there, and you could be wasting water in an area that doesn't need to be watered at all.
Yeah, and your soaker hoses are designed to, in a row garden, this is going to really help because that's where you do waste a lot of water. And again, overhead watering, if you're doing vegetables or herbs, even annuals, is not a good method to water anyway, because there's a lot of disease in any soil that's native soil. We have the clay around here, whatever, but especially in heirloom plants and all that you could pick up when you get the splatter of the water. Now, with the soaker hose, you actually could just lay it right along your row in the row garden up against your plants and let it weep. And then it does tell you how many gallons per hour, and they're different depending on that, but we're talking about a 5/8 hose, so 50 foot long. So what was the gallon per hour on most of those?
So when you're looking at a gallon per hour for a soaker hose about that size, you're looking at somewhere between 75 to 200 gallons per hour.
Okay.
Versus a traditional sprinkler system, you're going to be looking at somewhere between 180 to 480 gallons per hour. So it's a good significant.
And that's a lot of water. And it's not that we need an hour's worth of water on there, because even in most of your shrubs you plant out during the dry times of the summer, your lawns, you're usually looking at 1 inch of water per week. So you kind of have to do your calculations there. When you do your calculations, they are some mechanical systems that actually do screw onto your faucet. You can set the time it comes on and for how long it stays on. And that saves water too. So a soaker hose is one way to go. When do you think the best time to water is? I know a lot of people like to get up in the morning, turn the sprinklers on, or turn your soaker hose on, but what is the optimal time in this hot heat and this drought? What do you think?
So you're going to want to try to water later in the evening time or right around sunset time. The reason for that is whenever your sun is not going to be trying to rob a lot of your energy and getting a lot of evaporation, heat dissipation during the day. So if you go out there and you water at 10 o'clock in the morning, well, yeah, the dew's off, but at the same time too, you're going to watch that dew come off, and the same thing's going to be happening when you're watering your garden too.
Exactly. So, if we're in a water saving or conserving time, what we need to do is make the most out of the water that we do use. And so if we do apply it later to the evening, that way in the overnight hours, the sun's not drawing the moisture out and the plant's really getting to uptake it. It's going to be better on the plant and, less stress. And naturally, we don't want to start watering plants with their leaves in the dead of the heat of the day, and then you could get some scald on your leaves that way. Also, too, there's several ways that you can help these plants if you do have row gardens, raised beds, even in pot gardening, and mulching. Mulching does conserve water, and in this hot, dry times, mulching will control the heat that goes to the root of your plant. And again, the water that you use, that soaker hose, or whatever method you choose to use, you can conserve a lot of water there because you're holding it in the ground, you're keeping an even moisture, and your plant's going to thrive better in these dry times.
And that organic matter from the mulch, that's going to be more of a slow release too, versus
it helps hold water.
Versus just, in our clay area around here, if it gets any kind of water, it's going to harden and solid up, and it's not going to disperse like it should.
Yeah. So with the mulch on there, then that clay will, if you do have a clay type soil, which if you're around here, you're going to have, unless you're towards the coast, that does help you hold the water in. And there's different methods of mulch. I mean, you can use pine bark mulch. We do have a soil enhancer, which is a pine bark chip. You can use a hardwood mulch. If you've kept your leaves you've raked up from, a lot of people bags those up and all. But most definitely go ahead and spread those. That makes a good mulch also. Straw is a good one. You do not want to use hay. Hay still has the seed in it. Some hay, some farmers do use on their pastures. If they're cutting like fescue hay, they have maybe applied grazon, so you want to keep that away from your beds and your garden. With straw, most of the time it's not used, so that works well because it's a winter crop, and where fescue is a summer crop when you cut the hay. Makes a difference. So most of the time you harvest the grain, and then the stems that's left is what the straw is. So make sure that you don't use hay when you do that. So these are just a couple of the things that we've come around that may help you look at different things. So kind of look at your water hoses different ways. Now they do have systems where you can plug in with the timer and plug your water in, and it works electrical. But I think the manual ones that works off the pressure is fine. And again, when you were calculating gallons per minute or inches per hour or whatever, most of the time your garden hose, if you look, you're buying it offline or even the company's name, they can tell you how many gallons with that soaker hose at what pressure is coming on. If you're running on county water, your pressure is probably going to be anywhere from 60 to 80 pounds. If you're running off a well like I am, you're probably looking anywhere 40 to 50 pounds. So that gives you a good indicator of what you can do. But most of these companies do that. The only time that a soaker hose is not going to work well for you if you do have that new lawn, and then again you're going to need
your broadcast type sprinklers.
Yeah, and that's going to be about the only way because you want to cover all of the ground.
Yep.
Whereas we are concentrating directly on the plants like in annuals or vegetables or herbs. You can go up and water right around the trees or shrubs you planted without using the whole sprinkler system there. Always water at the root, around the base of the plant, never over the leaves and all. That helps save water also. Yeah.
And in this kind of gloom and doom that we've been talking about, drought here, as serious as it is, you hate to almost kind of say this, but there is an upside to this. If you've been, traditionally row gardening, this is all that you've ever done, all that you've ever known, and you've been wanting to make the leap into container gardening, it's kind of a good opportunity.
Or raised beds.
Yeah. So you got your raised bed, and, you want to build you got some lumber there at your hardware store, and you're ready to make the jump into it. Now's the perfect time because you're going to get that moisture control from a mix like our raised bed mix. And it's be a little bit more low maintenance for you.
Yeah. And there you go again, too. The more organic matter you applied to your row garden, and even in the rows, we're not saying you have to go through there and do the whole garden, but you can apply it in the rows when you're planting, and that helps. Organic matter helps you hold moisture. Again, in your pots, we have a mix for your pots. You can use our Daddy Pete's potting mix. You can use our Daddy Pete's lawn and garden soil works well. Our raised bed mix, you can use either one of these in pots. If you're doing shrubs or perennials, we have a perennial mix. We also have our nursery blend, which works well. So in those raised beds, if your local independent garden center happens to be out of the raised bed mix and they have the lawn and garden soil, grab it and go. It's going to work for you well too. So again, these are ways that you can continue to garden in the drought and have those fresh vegetables, those fresh herbs, those beautiful annuals, and you can conserve water by doing it. Just make sure when you build that bed to mulch it, and if you want to put some type of soaker hose underneath the mulch would even be better, hook it to it. And, again, best of both worlds.
I don't know if you remember this, but this was probably 10, 15 years ago, I was looking back through the Daddy Pete YouTube page, looking at the last podcast that we done and seeing all the weird faces I was making on there, but that's another story. But there was a video of you on there, and you were doing raised bed gardening, and you had the whole product demonstration there. But there was one video in particular, you said, you know, getting creative with your container gardening, and it was you just stuck the bag of mix open and cut a hole in it and put your vegetables in there.
Exactly. So, yeah. If you don't have a raised bed and you want to, here's an idea that works well. Buy the 50 quart, 2 cubic foot size for a potting mix, or, even I like the potting mix to do that with. You could use our planting mix, but lay it flat on the ground. Say make an X, and you actually could put 2. I think we use 2 zucchinis or 2 squash, peppers, tomatoes. Tomatoes you'll need to stake. But then I took a bag of our mini nuggets, or you could use hardwood mulch, but I mulched around it. Now, when we laid those out in a row, you got a beautiful row of plants there. They're already mulched in, so they look well. You're not seeing the bags. But make sure when you do cut those X's in the top part of the bag to put your plants in, fold back over. Before you do that, turn the bag over on the flat side on the back and take like a screwdriver or a punch and punch you some holes so that the water can drain through. You never want it to puddle inside the bag and drown your roots. So that's a good idea. Yeah. And I'd actually forgotten I'd done that.
Yeah.
Wow. Sometimes when you get old, you forget.
That's the joys of the internet. You can't forget anything that you ever did.
Yeah. That's good in a lot of ways. Anyway. Well, we need to get out of here for today, guys. We do thank you for tuning in. Please take a minute, go to our webpage, which is daddypetes.com, and look around just a little bit. You got a question on some of your garden or our mixes, please shoot that into an email to us. We'll get you an answer. If you want us to call you back, we'll leave a phone number. Also, you can find Daddy Pete products at your independent garden stores, your independent Ace hardware stores. Have us, and we're around. You'll find it a lot, maybe the southern state stores. These are all the places you can find. You will find us in our independent gardeners and center owners that we have had some of the best relationships for over 40 years. These are good hometown people. You go in, you got a question, they will take time to answer it. They will get it for you. They're going to help you. They want you to be as successful as you can be. Our motto at Daddy Pete's is we help you grow, and that's exactly what we intend to do. And I think you'll find that once you walk into these independent store owners, their help and themselves do have the time to answer your questions and want to help you be successful. Well, until next time, I guess we'll see you here maybe next week. So with the drought there, try to stay, well, who knows if you need to stay cool or hot. We're in North Carolina. One day we're 90 degrees, the next day, 2 mornings this week, we've been 38. So anyhow, dress for the day is all I can tell you. And thanks a lot for tuning in.
Thanks.